Okay, let's go ahead and make our way all the way down. A couple of relaxing breaths. Our intention for today, the idea that we're working on is the idea of perspective, especially with so much going on politically as it's getting closer and closer to the election time. It becomes easy to become divided, to just choose your side and to not be able to listen to any other perspective than your own. As I was pondering on this idea of perspective this morning, though, I was thinking about how our body is set up that we have to have two eyes. And having that second eye creates the ability for us to have depth perception, so that way we're not just walking directly into something. We're able to tell exactly how far away it is in relation to us. And so having the ability to have multiple perspectives is beneficial for living our life. And so why wouldn't it be beneficial as we're heading into other areas of our life? It's that idea that life doesn't necessarily have to be so polar, so much I'm right, you're wrong, and that's all there is. Instead, I think, at least on an individual level, we can facilitate discussions. And in that way, we're able to open ourselves up to broader perspectives, perhaps, than we've allowed in the past. So that's the idea today, is I'm physically going to have us open our eyes and gaze around in different postures, imagining that way that our body's set up right there was our perspective. And so as we're getting started here, let's start off with the knees into the chest. And even maybe take a couple of moments just to start opening up the hips. But even from this very first pose, let's start to slide eventually, when your body feels ready, slide down into a nice happy baby pose. And so from this shape, you can be rocking around a little bit if that feels nice, having movement, or you can have stillness. But either way, keep your eyes open and imagine if this was what your perspective looked like in life. What if the feet were always in front of our chest like this? And what if we always gazed up to the sky? If you think about it, this is kind of the first perspective we had when we were born. We were set in a crib, and this is what we could view. As much as your head could go left and right, and viewing up to the ceiling, and seeing your feet right in front of you, that's about all you had. And so imagine going back to that infancy perspective, that idea of really having a much more blank slate. There's culture and society hasn't told us what is right and what is wrong. And so we're having this idea of openness. I could become anything. So we'll enjoy just a few more breaths of this happy baby, letting the hips open. If you'd like to continue to add broader and broader movements to this shape, it might be nice to start stretching one leg up and then the other, starting to let deeper and deeper muscle groups start to stretch for us today. That could feel very nice in our bodies. Good. And so from here, releasing the feet, bring the knees together and start to head the knees into a twist to the left. Let the shoulders get settled into the ground, shoulder blades touching, arms spreading open. You can either completely just stay in this twist, just as we set it up initially here, or we could start heading toward cat chasing its tail. So step one of cat chasing its tail, let's take the bottom foot, so that left foot, into the right hand behind our back. So getting up into a quad stretch with the twist. And maybe step two, straightening the leg, sliding the left hand down that right leg. So you don't have to take either of those steps if you like the twist, but just bring this however deep your body's happy with. But letting that perspective come into play, really gaze over your right shoulder, making sure right shoulder is definitely touching the ground, and see the world from that right side. What if this was all you could view the rest of today? Could we find anything interesting to view from this side? Viewing things, taking nothing for granted. It's as if this is literally the first time I'm viewing this. There's no judgments, but it's all completely new. So what items do you see? What colors do you see? What variety of textures do you see? Any shapes and size differences? Anything from as small as a piece of dust to something much larger? Just notice what you've got on this side of the room. And as we gently release this, let's send the hips back down to the ground, right away scooping this right ankle up onto that left thigh. Spread the hands around left side. Now we've got the legs in front of us. So maybe check out that right foot and the right ankle and the right shin and calf and knee, as if this is the first time you've ever seen this part of your body. Some parts of our body are kind of funky. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Why do we have this? Why do we have little hairs on our foot? Check out my toenails. Check out the arch of the foot. How that arch helps me to walk. So from here, you can either stay or reach the right leg upward, left leg upward, walking the hands up that left leg. Kind of a funky position to have the cross here. If you took this shape, let's do 2 more breaths. And then with our release, bring the knees into the simple position, both knees together, start to send the knees over to the right side. Spine is spreading open. Starting to listen to this part of the body. Now or later, if we want to continue to evolve this pose, one option we have is to use that free left hand to grab onto the bottom right foot. That's behind the back. Maybe the top leg starts to straighten out, or maybe it likes to stay bent. You've got all sorts of things you can play with here. This gets us into multiple stretches at the same time. The quad, the spine, maybe hamstring. But whatever you're doing, start to really let your gaze be over the left shoulder this time. And look at that part of the world. What new curiosities are in this half of the room? Imagine that you weren't a human with all your experience. Maybe you're an animal. And think about how animals don't have the same perspective as we do on certain items. They don't realize that a pencil is for writing. They think, oh, a pencil can be something to chew on. And so what if nothing that you're viewing right now had an definite, objective reality? What if it could be anything? Gonna go back to that childlike instinct. What would I do with this funny little thing? Is it something to play with? Is it something to sit on? Just taking that fun perspective again. Another good inhale. And exhale. Start to return hips to the ground. The left ankle comes to right thigh. Thread the arms. And what do we see on the left leg that's different than the right leg? Is there a little freckle that's different? Maybe part of our clothing is different on this side. Sometimes I'll notice like a tiny little hole that it's like, oh, I didn't notice that before. Maybe the nail polish is different on this side. Just noticing something, anything, being present, taking nothing for granted. don't have to take this neck shape, but if we like it, we can start to straighten the right leg up, walk the hands up that side, and just notice what's going on here. Another good inhale. And exhale, release the foot, bring both knees back together. Let's take a movement just to help activate our core. We're going to go back and forth between curling the forehead in toward the knees, and then stretching the feet toward the base of the mat, the arms toward the head of the mat. Exhale, curl back into the tight little ball. So see the difference in perspective between these two shapes. The closed off perspective when the knees are covering our vision versus the open perspective when we're back onto the ground. And notice, how does the feeling of each shape differ? Do you like being protected and closed off like a turtle? Do you like being open and free like a dolphin? Let's take 3 more. Realizing the merit of both perspectives. Neither is right, neither is wrong. The combination of each is what's helpful. Good, so finishing that one, let's come up to a seated place. And heading directly in toward a nice cobbler pose. Really be with the space in front of you, whether you have mat in front of your eyes or maybe ground. Start to, heading forward, start to really view this area as if it's the first time. Are there interesting textures going on? How does the light shine in this space in front of us? Are there patterns, or are there differences, every inch looking different from the next inch? Noticing how each part makes you feel. How does it feel when there's straight lines and rigid patterns versus free-flowing, never repeating patterns? As we rise upright from here, shoot this left leg out long in front of us. The right knee lifts up so that we can tuck the right foot to the side. So from here, we'll head into another little quadricep stretch. So hands start to walk behind us. Sometimes this is about all the quad can handle, so we can tailbone under. Sometimes we can drop down onto left elbow, and maybe right, or even continue to go all the way down onto the back. So compared to the textures of the ground, how does the textures of the space above us differ? Just being with the body, taking nothing for granted. Perhaps if you're laying all the way back, you can't see your thigh at all, but yet you know it's being stretched. So how is it to not see what's going on? To just be with the deeper internal sensations. So another deep inhale. And relaxed exhale. Let's reverse our way to come back up. Lean to the left to free out the right leg, sending it long. And then take that second leg tucked in. Start to head backwards. Take nothing for granted. This leg might be a very different story than the first. So take your time, maybe right elbow drops down, maybe left, maybe going deeper. Never getting to that point of actual knee pain. Making sure we back off before that point. And how does your body feel now when it's the left quad being stretched instead of the right? 3 more breaths. Whenever your third starts to come to conclusion, every step we reverse our way out of to come out. Let both legs spread wide for a moment. Set the posture up as tall as you can. And this is a very different energy, sliding forward from trying to keep length in the spine, as it was in the cobbler pose when we simply went downward. So planting the hands in front of you, start to walk the hands forward and keeping the gaze to this forward low angle. Notice the differences going on here. How is that perspective different from the cobbler's pose, even though we're doing something extremely similar? Does our spine want us to be fluid with this? Maybe working on straightening the low back and then releasing even more. And a good breath in and out. And here we rise. Swing the legs underneath the body. Coming onto hands and knees. Let's start to take cat-cow and notice the perspective of the head. So as we round in, see how deep into your body you can view. Maybe you can view your belly button. And then upward, how high up can you view? Down and up. It's almost like we're trying to map out our range of motion of this part of the neck. Oftentimes, scientists will measure how much our neck can go left and right, but I've never heard a measurement necessarily of how much in this up and down perspective we can view. Knowing an owl can view 180 degrees, they can go all the way this way, all the way this way with the rotation of their neck. And just notice in this direction, how much does that neck have that ability to view to all sorts of angles. And imagine the blind spot that you have past your vision behind the back of the head. Let's take 2 more. With spine at neutral, reach the right arm up to the sky for a moment. See how you can view some of those spaces that were previously invisible when you're just doing the cat-cow. And thread this right arm under and through, setting the side of the head down. The left arm you can choose to keep here. You could choose to walk it up to the top of the mat or to thread it around your back. But notice your viewpoint, your vantage point from this place. Seeing the hairs on the arm, maybe new freckles, or maybe instead of looking closely, we're expanding our vision further. And notice how if you look further away, the closer stuff goes out of focus. When you look close, the further stuff goes out of focus with your eyes. So just experiencing that interesting phenomenon that our eyes have to adjust to have clarity. Another deep inhale here. And exhale. Let's rise back up. Join another cat. Seeing how high up or how far down. And a cow, seeing how high up. And then back to neutral. Lift the left arm up. View all that space that was previously invisible. And thread that shoulder down. And be with the perspective here. After we've set up the right arm in whatever spot that we like, see how and what is possible on this side. Again, taking nothing for granted. Having new experiences with our eyes, new experiences with just seeing things in a way that we never have noticed before. Another good inhale. Exhale, start to release the right hand down if you threaded it behind. Come onto your back, and again, cat and cow. Beautiful. Start to spread the fingers wider, setting up for a downward facing dog. And imagine when you've got the hips lifted super high, imagine this was how you walked around all day. What if this was all you could view of the world? You couldn't really see in front of you that easily, so maybe you'd have to walk like backwards. And imagine how the strength of the arms would differ if this was how we walked all the time. So movement or stillness, take a couple of more breaths being in this shape until it feels like a little bit too much work, and then we'll just come into a nice forward fold. Let the head be loose. You can make a sign for no, you can make the sign for yes. Just noticing how your perspective shifts if you allow that neck to be loose. It's much different than having rigidity. Enjoy another good inhale. Exhale. Inhale, let's rise. Keep your vision expanding. See how high up and back you can view. And then down at your heart. This is the perspective we normally take for our life. So can we keep even this perspective fresh and new? We'll take a nice slow sun salutation here, keeping that fresh perspective the whole time. So inhale, sweep up, let the vision go up, see everything. Exhale, forward fold. Back to that up and down, upside down perspective. Inhale, half lift. Long spine, see all this floor in front. Exhale, slide back down to plant hands. Keep the vision perhaps in between your hands as you step back to plank. Notice what it's like for your vision to get closer and closer to the ground, chaturanga. A nice back bend, see how deep the spine wants to go and what the vision is like from that angle. And back up to downward facing dog. Okay, let's lift the right leg up to the sky. If you stack your hips and even set the toes a little bit behind you, notice how the head wants to view in that space under the right armpit. It's like it opened up that whole space for us. And from here, squaring the hips off, let's step the right foot in between our hands. Back heel can rotate down for stability. See this perspective for a moment. Be with it. And then sweep the arms up to the sky. Letting ourselves sink lower and lower. What's it like to be just an inch or two lower than how we started with? Spreading the arms open to left and right. Let's try to twist to the harder direction, so twist over the right shoulder. Notice how far the spine can go. How far can we let the neck go? And then come back forward. Spinning directly open into warrior two. Let the hips go with you. Sometimes I widen the feet. Good. Maybe you can sink another inch lower. An extended side angle. Front elbow rests on front thigh. The other arm starts to stretch long so that our side ribs are opening. And just notice in your body what is going on. Do I naturally want to view down? That's a pretty easy balancing perspective. Do I ever try out gazing to the side or even upward? Beautiful. Return the arms back to the warrior two, and let's reverse it. Left hand onto the left leg, the right up, continuing to travel backwards. And back up, straighten the front leg, triangle pose. Shift the reach forward first and then drop the right hand down, left hand up. Notice where your immediate perspective went to view, and does that have to be the only place? Can there be a little bit more fluidity in the vision, or is the balance precarious as is? Good. Returning back up. Let's shorten the stance, letting our hips go back forward. Right leg is still at the front. And then slide your hands down that front straight leg into a nice pyramid pose. And notice here, where does the perspective go to have balance? Does it go closer to the front foot? Maybe closer to the back big toe? Shifting our weight onto that front right foot, our hands go forward. We balance the back leg either level with the hip to be a nice supported warrior 3, or continue to lift the leg higher, more like a standing split. And sometimes I'll play with balancing without hands on the ground. Eventually everything, hands, that left foot, everything drops back to the ground. So the muscles of the back feel this nice, gentle release. Head is loose again. Take another inhale. Exhale. Inhale, rise. Going right into the sun salutation. Exhale, forward fold, diving the hands down. Inhale, half lift. The eyes are still open and aware. Exhale, hands slide down to plant, even if you have to bend knees. The feet step back to plank. Again, have that vision getting closer and closer to the ground, chaturanga. And then back bend, your choice. Always know child pose is fine if that's what you like. Otherwise, downward facing dog is welcome. From down dog, let's lift the left leg up to the sky, opening a little bit more vision space under that left armpit. And when we square the hips, the left foot steps in between hands. Back heel can rotate down. Find the steadiness of the feet. And then notice what happens with the vision as we sweep up. Do we find a spot to look at that helps us rise? Or do we kind of let our whole gaze shift the whole time? Neither's right, neither's wrong. Just notice what happens with your body. Maybe let yourself sink an inch just to notice the slight difference in perspective. Good. Arms open out to each side. Start to twist over the left shoulder, the harder one. Notice what your range of motion is there, not only in spine, but also in neck. And then spiral back forward, rotate open to the other side, sending it directly into warrior 2, so hips are now to the side, maybe stance is slightly wider. Good, front elbow rests to front thigh. The other arm starts to stretch long. Again, notice your perspective. What's the immediate one? And do I have to take that perspective? There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong, good, bad, ugly about any perspective. But notice if there's a reason why I immediately go to the perspective that I choose. And rising up. Let's reverse it. The back hand is to the back leg. Notice what's your immediate perspective. Do you look down? Do you look up? Not saying that this is related to cup half full or half empty, but it's similar in that maybe we always just choose one, even though there's a whole other half to view. Another good inhale. Exhale, rise, straighten the front leg. Then you reach forward and then rest it down. The other hand goes up. Right hand reaching high. What if you closed one of your eyes and whatever you see on the roof, suddenly the depth perception is gone and you can just grab it. Notice how different it is to have that depth perception. Good. Rising up. We'll shorten the stance enough to head into pyramid, so hips need to face forward, left foot is still in front. And then keeping the hips square that direction, slide down. What perspective do I immediately take to stay in balance? Oftentimes the perspective that we've been raised with is the perspective that immediately helps us find groundedness and balance in our life. That's not to say that's the only perspective though. We're to shift our perspective now. See, there's many spots that we can look at and still be completely steady here. We're going to prepare to shift our weight onto this front leg. So when you shift forward, the hands can go forward. Lift right leg either like a warrior 3 or like a standing split. Maybe that support of hands is absolutely necessary. Maybe you can get fewer and fewer fingers on, maybe just one finger on each side. Or maybe no hands at all. And your perspective be that solid that it'll hold you up, even in unsteadiness. Whenever you're ready, everything can drop down to the forward fold. Feel the difference in the body of the rest here versus maybe that struggle for balance just a few seconds ago. Does the body take on stress when it feels unbalanced? Sometimes I see that happening in political conversations. There's just stress that arises. So it's important just to notice that, to be aware that that is the body's response, if that's what it is. Now let's sweep our arms up to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Eyes are still open. Exhale, slide down. Come to plank. Lower strong chaturanga. View the perspective as your back is getting more and more open as we travel through class. And perhaps a nice moment with child pose. See what you can view when you rest your forehead down on the ground. Perhaps this is almost like going to sleep every night. It's like most of our vision, most of this room is completely closed off right now. Maybe our brain needs a break from reality, as we call it. Maybe it needs a break to be able to get back to a space of infinite potential so that the next day we can have this energy to go through this perspective that we've chosen to take on in life. So as we rise up here for a moment, we'll take a little bit of play time, just a couple of breaths with a crow pose. Coming back onto the back toes, planting the hands, spreading the fingers wide, hands are about as wide as shoulders. And know that you don't have to put your body into too much stress. If you know just kind of resting a little bit of weight forward is what your body can do today, that's beautiful. If you want to try to pick the hips up higher, setting the knees onto triceps, that would be just a little bit more weight, or even rocking forward View your perspective, that solid perspective as one set of toes lifts, and maybe as the other set. Or moments or just seconds. Let's go for 2 more reps, whatever your perspective is like. View how helping us balance, we need a point, a solid point. Steadiness. As we start to squat back down here at the back of the mat, let's spread our feet wide into Malasana pose. Try to get the posture as tall as possible. And notice how this almost is exactly what we just did a moment ago. We've got our wrists in this nice 90-degree angle. We've got our feet in this wider, almost frog-like pose. But yet this perspective is so different than when we're trying to go forward. So just be with your body. Notice that difference. And from here, dropping the hands down, straighten the legs, turning toes forward. And view how space looks just slightly different from the back of your mat than it does at the front of your mat. Inhale helps us rise. Exhale, hands to heart. Bringing the feet underneath hips. We start to play with a couple of balance poses. We just do the best that we can. First, it's tree pose. So the right knee and the right toes rotate outward. Kickstand is perfectly fine, setting up the posture tall. Maybe we're sliding a bit higher. So be with your body. If it feels a little bit unsteady, I just want you to work on this balance that we're already at right now. If you're feeling like, I could do this all day, this is pretty easy, I want you to try to close your eyes for a moment and feel how different it is to try to balance without the eyes helping you. So different. Good, and then reopening them. We can either grab onto this right thigh, or we can try to grab onto the side of the right foot and extend the leg forward. So whatever balance we have possible in our body today, try to find that pose. And then try to take this right leg, cross it over the left leg like an eagle pose. Toes can be on the ground for kickstand or wrapping around the calf. Right elbow under. When our body is crossing the midline like this, it helps our brain to integrate the left and the right sides together even a little bit better. So just notice this pose. And then unwind the arms, straighten the standing leg, and when you extend the right leg out, let it just set down. So that's about the perfect alignment for pyramid. So let's slide back down into pyramid for a little bit. Bending the front knee, roll up. Maybe inch those front toes a little bit further until the back heel starts to rise. And from here, we're going to try out a twist. So bring the hands to the heart. See if your left elbow can hook onto the right thigh. And notice the precarious balance. We're trying to find something steady to look at on this side. As we unwind, we're going to open directly to Warrior Two to the other side of the room. Find that steady balance. Perhaps gazing over the front middle finger. You've got two options here. You can either go into triangle pose, straightening the front leg and bowing down, or trying to play with half moon pose. We set the right hand to the outside angle of the right foot, and then the hip stack, the shoulder stack, reaching up as high as we can. Good. And one smooth motion. We try to end up in a forward fold at the top of the mat, either closing down if you're in that pyramid, or sliding forward like we did earlier. Feel the breath calm, body aligning. We've got one more side, so let's take a flow to get back to the back of the mat. Inhale, half flip. Exhale, sliding down. Take it to plank. Chaturanga. A heart opener. And maybe a moment with child. Couple of breaths with crow. See if this crow feels any more steady than the first one. It's almost like our body's like, yeah, maybe I can just do this now. Whenever you feel complete, going into that Balasana. Posture's tall, steady. Dropping hands down, straighten the legs, turning toes forward. Feel this wonderful release. Inhale, rise. Exhale, hands to heart. Feel the feet under your hips. And we have the tree pose with the left knee rotating open. So whenever you have your foot set up in whatever spot is steady, feel the rest of the posture align. It's like there's a stick straight line from the heel down into the earth, and then from the heel up the rest of the spine. Again, if wobbliness is where we're at already, just keep on focusing on having something steady to look at. If you are ready for that challenge, you can try closing the eyes and see how the balance is so different without this vision. Okay, and when we open the eyes, we'll either grab this left thigh, helping us balance in front, or grab the left foot, posture's tall, and we start to kick it forward. Good. Cross this left thigh over the right for eagle, left elbow under. So that cross lateral balance, that balance is so different than being away from the midline. And when we unwind, kick this left leg forward and step it down, sliding down for a moment, beautiful pyramid. How was your balance as you shifted onto that front leg just now? You slid more of your body weight forward. Bending the knee, the front knee, roll up. Inch those toes a little bit further forward until the back heel starts to lift. It's okay. Okay, hands are at the heart, helping us balance for a moment. Left and right sides unified. And then we try to hook the right elbow. Your perspective can absolutely just be down at the front foot. Maybe it goes to the side or even up. That can be kind of hard. So play with what your balance needs. Try to see what your vision does as you cartwheel directly into warrior two. And then either straighten the front leg and take triangle pose, or start to cartwheel over the front leg into half moon pose. Notice this balance perspective. Am I gazing up? That's harder. Am I gazing to the side at something solid? Am I gazing down? Beautiful. Everything finds a moment of release up at the top. Muscles relaxed. Head relaxed. And here we walk directly into downward facing dog shape. Right leg floats up to the sky. Send that knee under and through pigeon pose. With the hands planted, take a moment to view the world, whatever it is like from here. And then as you progressively release forward, keep the eyes open. Viewing the new world from the elbow position if that's accessible. Maybe even widening elbows, set the forehead down and view the mat from that closeness. Perhaps even closing the eyes. See what the closest noise that you can identify is. And then what's the next noise further? And the next noise further than that. Maybe another noise even further. Good. We'll start to shift sides, come up to hands. Tuck the back toes, lifting directly up to downward facing dog. Little wiggles are welcome. Eventually we take the left leg up to send it under and through. Back leg scoots back, hips are level. And then take this upper perspective. Lowering to elbows. Really view the world from there. And widening elbows, maybe the forehead rests down. View the world from there. And as we close the eyes, can we identify a sound closer than we identified before? Can you hear the sound of your own breath? Or maybe even hear your own heart beat. And start to progressively identify further and further noises. What's the furthest possible noise that you can hear right now? Starting to walk up onto our hands. Let's rest onto this hip, bringing both legs in front of us. Just an easy seated position. Postures up tall. Lifting the head up. How high can we view up and back? Maybe even arching. And then let that wrist up to neutral. How far down can you view? Maybe even rounding down, viewing any spaces right under the arms. Lifting up to neutral. Using hands in whatever way is helpful. Start to twist over the right side. How far to that direction can you view? And forward. How far to the left can you view? Perhaps you're able to establish a 360-degree view of your entire space. Or maybe there's blind spots. So just notice and acknowledge, I have some blind spots. Wow, that's pretty cool. Go ahead and return forward. And here, if there's any last stretches our body needs, either in the seated arrangement, or as we start to head down onto our back, any other little movements our body might be craving, begin to set up any of those last movements. This is a way for us to connect with our body, an invitation of presence. Just keep on exploring until your body says, yeah, I'm totally ready for Shavasana. And when we close our eyes in Shavasana, find these deeper senses, deeper than just the eyes. Asking ourselves questions like, what do my ears know? What does my sense of touch know? What does my nose know? And even, what does my gut feeling, what does my intuition know? Trying to find these deeper perspectives that we don't always pay as much attention to. Begin to deepen the inhales and the exhales. Introducing little movements back to fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Taking a fetal position if you like. Enjoying a few good breaths wherever you're resting. Until several breaths from now, you feel eventually ready to come all the way up to sit. As we arise, we join our hands together in front of our heart. And we acknowledge that we've been given two eyes in this life. We've been given many senses, some of which we hardly ever use throughout the day. And we've also been given many deeper intuitive senses. And so just finding this deeper presence, this deeper intuition, this deeper knowing that we have available to us to help us sense things that maybe our eyes and our initial perspective were not capable of. With that type of connection to lead us onward into this marvelous week, let's wrap up the time we got to share together today with a sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.